So we got a delivery yesterday from the Brown Santa, and yeah, we've been waiting for these parts. Don't mind my messy little storage area, but Motobilt, oh, bunch of Motobilt parts. Now Lauren's away getting stuff for her business right now, but I'm looking for a certain part, because while she's doing her stuff, I'm gonna start prepping, and then she gets back with the Jeep, I'm gonna put it on the Jeep. So let's go through these boxes and find out, or try to find the one that I'm looking for. Just got down to the garage and unpacked the camera mount, and it's a little different. We've installed 2 or 3 of these on a couple JLs. I checked on the website, and the photos are still the same as the old one, but mine's different. So I'll show you how. So at first glance, it looked just like how they were before, until I undid the camera mount. And if you look on the website, the camera mount goes all the way out to these outside holes. It's all one solid piece. So mine is 2 pieces. So it has this outside piece and this inside piece, and it only mounts to the 2 inner holes. Now this piece is the same on both. This is what actually mounts the camera to it. But as for the camera mount itself, it is now a 2-piece. So I'm thinking this is just a redesign by Motobilt, but this is all the hardware that comes with it. So before, it used to only come with 1 of these to mount to the bottom of the camera. Now it comes with 3, assuming the other 2 are to hold everything together. And then obviously your license plate hardware, and then the 3 little Allen screws that you screw the camera into. Gotta get these degreased. When Motobilt ships them, they ship with like a little coat of oil, probably like WD-40 or something, just to keep them from rusting during shipment. So let's get these degreased and then get ready for paint. One of the best things I've found for degreasing this is actually just carb cleaner. You can use carb cleaner, brake cleaner, acetone, or rubbing alcohol, denatured alcohol. It all works. This I just found to be the fastest. It kind of cuts through the grease and the grime really quick, and then you just wipe it off with a rag. So just hose them down. I have noticed there's a couple spots on that right here, a little bit, maybe the oil wasn't quite there, so we got a little bit of rust starting. Got a little bit of rust right there, a little bit on the other side. So if you get yours and you see that, don't be worried. A piece of sandpaper or even green Scotch-Brite. You might have to degrease twice that way. So if you get the green Scotch-Brite, put a little bit of WD-40 on the Scotch-Brite and scrub these areas, and that oil will come right off. Me, I'm lucky enough to have a sandblaster here at home, so I'm actually just going to toss these in my sandblaster, spray them down real quick, and then it should be good to go to paint. But I want to degrease them anyway, because you don't want to put greasy parts in a sandblaster, and yeah, it'll just ruin your sand. So degreasing was still a necessary step for me, but let's get these over to the sandblaster. Okay, so I figured I would at least show how to do the Scotch-Brite method, since probably 90% of the people don't have a sandblaster. This is just a used Scotch-Brite pad. It's still got some roughness to it, and then just a can of WD-40. So I'm going to spray it right on the, you can do it right on the Scotch-Brite. Just kind of scrub away. Get that, and then get a rag. Just wipe it off. You can see there, majority of that surface rust is gone. This will also kind of etch the surface a little bit to help the paint stick a little bit better. So if you don't have a sandblaster, go ahead, work your way around all the parts, just make sure they're clean, and then you can degrease again. Me, I'm gonna head over and sandblast these suckers. Paint I'm going to be using Rust-Oleum Universal, the flat soft iron. Well, there she is. There's a stock tire carrier. We don't have a spare currently since we switched to the 37s. So again, the reason why we're doing the spare tire delete kit from Motobilt. Now we will have a spare for the Jeep, but when we need it, we're just gonna throw it in the back. I like how clean the new jails look without a spare hanging off the back. That's my personal preference. I know some people hate it, some people like it, but we like it, and we're gonna get rid of the spare tire carrier. We have 8 bolts. 2 here, 2 here, 2 there, and 2 there. So 4 on top, 4 on the bottom. And then we have our camera. So we have to contend with the wiring for the camera and the wiring for the third brake light. We'll go ahead and get started on removing this. So to access the wiring that we're gonna need to, we're gonna have to remove the inside the tailgate plastic panel. So all it is just a bunch of clips all the way around. So the best way to get started is grab the wiring here and kind of just give it a tug, and it'll pop those clips, and then you can just start working your way around. Haha! So that many clips. Set this aside. Side note, make sure your little green clippies stay on. So this should be our rear view camera, and the second one down is our third brake light. So I'm gonna unhook these connectors and try to pull them out with the grommet. That way I can remove this whole piece together. These are 1/2 inch. And you will be reusing all 8 of those bolts for the new spare tire delete. And voila! Let's get the camera cover off. We need the toolkit. So unlock. Now I have to remove all these Torx bolts all the way around, and that's a T25. Loosen these two. upside down. There we go. Unplugs. And now we just push the wires out. The next are these two T25s. They're holding the camera assembly. Now, the wheel studs are all hooked onto the same assembly. So once you undo these two, you're going to probably have to tap the wheel studs, out of the plastic housing. Alright, got those two out. Remember. Alright, so this little plastic connector was right there. So I just pulled him out with these studs. Just take a couple taps, but have your hand here to catch because the camera is attached to the whole assembly. So once you hit it, it's going to all drop. So, just like that. I may have already loosened it. There. Here's our camera assembly with our third brake light wires and our camera wire. So now to get the camera off of this. Alright, next are going to be these three. To me at first they look like Allen bolts, but if you look real close they are a Torx head. So they are a T8, a super tiny T8. So go ahead and undo all three of these. Okay. So now that will release our camera assembly from there. So, yep, just unplugs just like that. It might be a little stiff at first. Set your camera aside without scratching it, and then you can just run your connector through the plastic. And now we have our complete harness from our spare tire carrier. So on a side note, while I'm thinking about it, some people will want to keep the grommet where the wiring comes out of and run their wiring through the side of the tag relocation bracket. For our Jeep, we ordered the Vector UFO tailgate delete kit. So what it does is it removes all of these rubber grommets and puts a nice it's a machined aluminum spacer there, or a plug per se, to make it just kind of cleaner. So the reason I'm talking about that is the grommet is on this wiring harness and I'm not going to need it, so I'm going to cut it off and run my wiring a different route, which I'll show here in a little bit. But for you people that want to keep this, you can go ahead and keep the wiring as is and just run this to the side, but you'll still want to keep all of this wiring for the third brake light. Now that we have our wiring harness out of the spare tire carrier, I thought it would be a good time to show our new third brake light from Off-Road Only. You can order this with your Motobilt kit. It is an optional selection, so your kit doesn't just come with this, you have to select it. But it has a plug in it and a good length of wire. The problem is, with the stock wiring, there is no wire for the license plate light in the stock harness. So this is our, right here, our third brake light. So on our new wiring we have 3 versus the 2. So our black is still our ground, our red is our third brake light, and then this green wire is our white license plate light. We need to get power to this wire that's doesn't exist in the stock harness. So on the JLs, our license plate's down in the bumper and our license plate light is right here beside. So all the wiring for the stock license plate light is way down here and we need it all the way up here. There's a few ways to go about this. You can tap into a ignition power wire. We can take the taillight out from inside and tap in there, or we can undo the wiring from the bumper, undo it from here, cut the plug off and run it all the way up through the body into here, and then I have to extend it and run it all the way along and up through to here. I know that sounds like the hard way, but it was already the dedicated wire for the license plate light, so I think I'm going to go that way and just keep it as it is instead of splicing into one of the tail light wires. What we're going to do is start tearing the stock license plate light apart and working up from there.
Hey guys, I'm actually in this video. I didn't think I was gonna be, so hi! At this point in the video, I'm actually gonna pause you guys and redirect you depending on how you want to do your wiring for this install. Cody and I used the stock wiring from the bumper for the license plate light. We ran that the whole way into the tailgate. So if you want to see how we did that in a separate video, you can go check that out now at this point and then come back to this video. If you don't want to do it our way, and if you have another way that you're doing it by tapping into the tail light or just something else, you don't need to see that separate video. You can just keep watching at this point to get to the install of the tag relocation kit. Forgot to tell you, I will be putting a link to that video in the description to this video. That way it's easy for you guys to go find that. Or you can just go to our channel and go look for it yourself, since we don't have a lot of videos yet.
Good morning. It is the next day. I kind of got tired last night and decided to pause. And we're going to finish up the last section of the wire that we have to solder together and mount up the tag relocation bracket. The first step to preparing the new tag relocation kit for assembly is getting our camera mounted into this bracket. One problem with this bracket, though, is the new Allen screws that Motobilt provides. These new bolts don't fit through the holes in the camera. To remedy that, we have to just kind of drill out the holes on the factory camera to accept the new bolts, because the bracket, these holes are threaded for these new Allens. Alright, now our camera's drilled out. We take the camera and put it on the side of this bracket that the little wings come this way. Okay. When you hold it up, you can tell which side it has to go on. Alright, Allen started. This is a 2.5 millimeter Allen. The next step is with this new redesigned camera mount on the Motobilt bracket, is we got to attach the two pieces together. So we take the provided hardware, which is a 1/8 Allen head and a 3/8 nut, and we put them together. And there is our completed camera mount with our factory camera ready to plug in. Next is going to be mounting our license plate to, but also our third brake light. So the way this goes is our wire is going to go over here, and our third brake light is going to sit on those two holes, and our license plate is going to sit right on top of that bracket. Again, Motobilt supplies the hardware. These are 7/16. So you have a 7/16 bolt, nylon nut, and 2 washers per. So we're going to take a bolt and washer, go through, and put on another washer, nylon nut. And voila! The license plate is mounted. Alright, so earlier I mentioned that we would have to cut out a piece of plastic to allow the plug to pass through the tailgate. So what I was talking about was underneath these flaps, there's like a plastic grating. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the plastic here in this top corner so I can run my plug through that side. So we're going to run the plug for the third brake light and the camera through this hole. So I'm going to cut this out. I'm just going to take a pair of dikes or a diagonal cutter, however you want to call them, and kind of snip the plastic. 2, 3, 4. So, okay, that hole's cut out to allow the plug to go through. Take a rag, just kind of wipe away any loose dirt that's strapped under there so we don't pinch it between the bracket and the paint. We take our back plate, do these top inner ones. Again, we're reusing the factory bolts from the spare tire carrier. Line up the holes, start these bolts by hand. Just a couple threads, so it can support its weight. Now, I'm going to take this plug and feed it through the hole we just cut. What we also want to do is take our camera wire, feed it back through that same hole, and we should have it down here. And what we want to do is we want to feed it through the hole right here that Motobilt cut out. So we have our camera hole, or camera wire coming through that hole, and our third brake cable going back through the tailgate. Grab 2 more bolts, plug our camera in, and this one through. So now we have the whole bracket held up loosely. Grab our other bolts. So we have all of our bolts loosely. At this point, it'd be a good time to check and make sure that the camera works. So let's go in and turn the Jeep on. There's our camera. Looks like it's working. That's always a good sign. So before we tighten all of our bolts on the outside, we have everything mounted up. Our new third brake light wire coming in, our camera wire going out. We still have to finish doing the wiring to connect all the wiring we did before up and over and tying in our third brake light to our plug. With everything hooked up, we're going to test it and make sure we did it properly. So with my lovely assistant in the driver's seat, go ahead and turn the headlight switch to on. And there's our license plate light, which that works. That's good. Lauren, can you hit the brakes, please? Yay! Third brake light works. Perfect. So that means that we didn't mess up, and I don't have to backtrack, and we can finish by soldering these wires together and cleaning everything up, and we are done. So before we tighten this up, we're gonna add a pop of color. Lauren wants to do yellow as an accent color with bikini blue. So just a fun idea for anybody. If you put a piece of just vinyl sticker behind the logo, you can accent it that way without being permanent, because you can always unbolt it, peel the vinyl off, and just use the body color as the back, or change it out. So, something different. We're going to give it a shot, see how it looks. There's our interior panel in. Everything is clean. The wires come running down here. Everything looks factory. Oh, that looks so much better than that big honking ugly thing.
So the last part of our spare tire delete process is removing the old...
They're bumpers to keep the spare tire from hitting the paint. And then this is just a plug for the hole. And then this is where the old wiring came out, which you saw in the video. I had to cut this because I didn't want to run it there, which is why I rewired everything. Yeah. So I mentioned earlier that we were going to be replacing this, and the package came today. Alright, first things first, we have to remove all the old grommets and rubber pieces. Okay. Easy as that. For the first, we'll start with the small ones. So the three pieces are your outside UFO delete, your bolt, and your rubber threaded grommet. So all you do, stick that sucker right in the hole.
That's not hard to do.
Nope. Put it in and tighten her up. Now what that's going to do is the threads in that grommet, as you tighten, it's going to smush it against the inside of the tailgate. Get tighter. Switch the torque. So you want to try to keep it from spinning with it. That way it flexes out the rubber grommet. Pretty good. Let's do the next one.
So for the big ones, we're gonna head around to the back.
So just like when we had to do all the wiring, gotta pop this off, so start it like that. So our holes are tricky. Right now I have my finger through the big hole outside and I'm touching fingertip to fingertip, so the little screw plate for that is here, so we have to kind of get that in there and held. And same with this one, you can actually see through this hole, but you still have to come in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a pair of needle nose vice grips to hold this, try to fish this back there while we simultaneously run the hardware through the outside. So I grabbed it with vice grips kind of like this because the way the angle is.
At an angle.
Yeah. Let's see the threaded hole. Try to get. Doesn't have to be quite centered yet, just as long as we can get the thread started so we don't lose it. Okay. Threads are started. We're going to. Yep, hold it. Yep, hold it. Yeah, is it threading in?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Okay. Give it a couple of good snugs. Oh yeah. Nice and snug.
There's one. And there's two.
Last step.
So the process was all the same for installing the second one. Ta-da! That's it. Alrighty guys, this wraps up the entire install of your Motobilt spare tire delete kit. I am loving the spareless look on the back of my Jeep. It just looks so clean with the combination of the Vector UFOs with the Motobilt tag relocation kit. Although the prep work made this a little bit of a lengthy process along with the wiring, Motobilt made sure to make this a super easy install. The optional third brake light and license plate light definitely adds a nice finishing touch, and in my opinion is worth it just to get it added on. I hope you guys enjoyed this install just as much as we did. And if you guys didn't take notice already, you probably see what video is coming up next. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. We would love to hear from you. And as always, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We really appreciate you guys watching our videos as our channel is growing. Thanks for joining The Altered Life. We'll catch you guys next time. Bye!